Alright, now that everything is settled on the NFL postseason, I think NFL fans can firmly set their attention now to the upcoming year and the offseason moves that'll define their favorite team's ability to compete in 2025. This is going to be an interesting offseason too. There are a number of big superstars that are set to hit the open market, guys who were the longtime faces of franchises with suddenly murky futures. Not to mention all the front offices who have kicked the salary cap can down the road as long as they could and now have some real hard decisions to make. So how about we dive on in to 5 NFL superstars who will be playing in new colors next season and 5 who won't be going anywhere. New home, Zack Bon, LB, Philadelphia Eagles. This is what happens when you win the big one. The team gets to celebrate and all seems great. But next thing you know, the scavengers from around the league start trying to rip off pieces of your championship squad. For Philly, heading into the 2025 offseason, there's gonna be a few talented players that they struggle to keep in town. And that's in spite of the overall impressive cap situation that they've pieced together. And, well, at the end of the day, I think Zack Bon is probably suspect number 1 here. This was a big year for Bon. He got a first-team All-Pro nod, along with obviously helping the Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl. So the guy's due for a big payday. Bon finished with career highs in tackles, 151, sacks, 3.5, pass deflections, 4, and forced fumbles being 5. But will Philadelphia be willing to pony up the $27 million to keep him in town? Or on the tag? No, I don't think so. And the scary thing for the Birds is that on the open market, who knows what he'll end up commanding? He's 28 and still has a lot of his best football ahead of him. Don't be shocked if an NFC competitor like Washington or even Los Angeles makes him an offer that he can't refuse. You know, should Philly let him hit the open market. Not going anywhere, T. Higgins, WR, Cincinnati Bengals. While Jamar Chase gets most of the attention from the media and the Bengals' aerial attack, T. Higgins has quietly emerged as a legit star receiver in his own right, and the two form one of the most formidable receiver duos in the league when he's healthy. Higgins recorded 1,029 plus yards in back-to-back terms and 13 touchdown receptions in total between 2021 and 2022. He did deal with injuries that impacted his production in 2023, but managed to bounce back with 73 catches for 911 yards and a career-high 10 touchdowns this past season. There has been a lot of noise as to whether or not the Cincinnati front office will break their piggy banks to keep him in town. Well, if the Bengals front office has any sense about it, which based on their track record unfortunately shouldn't be a far-gone conclusion, they should 100% make sure that they can get a deal done before T can start flirting with other organizations. Joe Burrow, who at this point is the Cincinnati Bengals, and representatives of all their organization hopes and ambitions in a major way, has made it very clear that he wants the front office to invest in this team and that he believes that T. Higgins is a big part of the solution going forward. There is, as mentioned, still a chance that the Bengals decide to pull some Bengals nonsense and let their star wideout walk. But the smart money says that he'll stay in Cincy. The front office simply has far too much to lose on this one. New home, Javon, Holland, safety, Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins will tell you that they are contenders heading into the season and looking to build out the final couple of pieces required to get them over the hump. But, well, make no mistake about it, regardless of the big names that they have on that roster, this is still very much an organization that's in flux. Meaning that some of the hard decisions that they'll have to make for high-paid players, thanks to the investments that they've made and subsequently all the money that they have tied up in the likes of Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill, are going to be even harder. What does that net out to for Javon Holland? Well, he should expect the Dolphins to be placing the franchise tag on him this year. Doing so would mean he'd be getting $19.6 million to play one season with the Dolphins in 2025. Considering the restrictions that they'll have on their budget heading into the offseason, allocating that much money to a player who's never reached the Pro Bowl, I don't know, it feels unlikely. That, however, is not an indictment on Holland by any means. He has proven to be a versatile piece that many teams will be happy to sign. And there's a very good chance that he has a big year in 2025, maybe even one where he gets that Pro Bowl nod. Thing is that it just probably won't be in Miami. Not going anywhere, Myles Garrett, edge, Cleveland Browns. If the NFL made Myles Garrett play with one arm tied behind his back, there's honestly a chance that he'd still be a top 5 pass rusher. The guy is a generational talent that has been wasting away with the Browns. And unfortunately, even with Cleveland's front office teetering on the edge of financial disaster, they are not about to let their best player walk out the door. Now, would it make sense for the Browns to finally admit that they've hit a wall and start selling off parts, including Garrett? I mean, yeah, probably. But let's be real, that's just not happening. Cleveland still thinks it can win with this core, and the idea of trading away their 4-time All-Pro pass rusher is the kind of logic that gets you run out of town. Expect the Browns to throw a blank check at Garrett to keep him in the fold, despite the fact that it would make a lot more sense for them to admit that they've hit a breaking point and just to sell this team off for parts, Garrett included. But man, the likelihood of that feels extremely low. Cleveland is still under the delusion that they can compete, and they're going to want to keep Garrett in town, at least for as long as they can. So expect them to make him an offer that he can't refuse and a deal with forcing his way into a new uni sometime down the road. I mean, hey, he can always circle back on that one. New home, Josh Sweat, edge, Philadelphia Eagles. Josh Sweat is another big name that Philadelphia might have to accept will be playing ball in a different jersey by the time next season rolls around. The Birds have invested heavily in their defensive line, but with Jalen Hurts' contract ballooning and other key pieces needing extensions, there's really only so much money that can go around. And unfortunately for Josh Sweat, he's the odd man out here. Sweat has been a rock-solid edge presence, racking up 35.5 sacks over the past 4 seasons, but he's now heading into his age 28 season and is going to demand serious money after the run he and the team just made. Enter the Arizona Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon maximized a painfully thin defensive roster last season, but now it's time to actually stock the cupboard. Sweat knows his system, and with Arizona's disastrous pass rush numbers, they'll be more than happy to break out the checkbook. Yeah, he might not be an all-pro, but he would immediately become their best pass rusher. For Sweat, now that he has a ring, a fresh start in the desert with a familiar coach and deep pockets could be exactly what he needs. Not going anywhere, Chris Godwin, WR, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Near the top is figuring out what happens with Chris Godwin's future and whether or not he'll be back in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay just went through this with Mike Evans last offseason, and guess what? He didn't go anywhere. Well, now it's Chris Godwin's turn, and the signs are pointing in the same direction. The good news for Bucs fans is that the front office has made it clear that they want their longtime star receiver back, injury concerns and all. Tampa knows what they have in him, and with Baker Mayfield's resurgence, it makes way too much sense to run it back. Expect the Bucs to work out a deal, maybe not a monster contract, but something that keeps him in pewter for a little while longer. Godwin has been a fixture in that locker room for years now, and is a great player when he's on the field, so expect Tampa Bay to find a way to keep him in South Florida for the foreseeable future. New home, Hassan Reddick, edge, New York Jets. It may be hard to consider Hassan Reddick a true superstar after the display he put forth last season with the Jets, but let's just chalk that one up to the organizational chaos of the Jets hitting new highs, or new lows for that matter. Reddick was a bona fide superstar in Philadelphia, and well, that one season with the Jets turned him into a bit of a ghost. Blame it on injuries, blame it on the never-ending circus that is Jets football, but it does all net out to the fact that his New York stint was a complete disaster. But you know, he'll still command a lot of attention this offseason, albeit not quite as much as he would have a year ago, but hey, still, he will not be on the clearance rack. Edge rushers don't just forget how to play, and Reddick still has plenty left in the tank. He's just 1 year removed from 4 straight double-digit sack seasons, and you know, in the right system, he could be a game wrecker again. Coming off of a down year, he'll likely want to rebuild his value and would likely enjoy the opportunity to play for a player-friendly coach like Raheem Morris in Atlanta, where they could very much use a pass rushing specialist in order to help the Falcons get back into playoff contention. Not going anywhere, Derek Carr, QB, New Orleans Saints. While Derek Carr may not be the forever option for the Saints, the reality is that he's not going anywhere in the near future. That's despite the money problems that the organization continues to kick down the road. I mean, think about it. The Saints just brought in Kellen Moore to revamp the offense, and Carr is the perfect guy for him to do it with. He gives him just enough firepower to compete, but is not legit enough for Moore to not keep an eye downfield for a young signal caller that he can target and handpick for his system like Sean Payton did in Denver with Bo Nix. This seems like a win-win for both sides, as Carr is eager to just get out there and try to stay healthy enough to play some football, and Moore's offense could be the right fit to help him put up big numbers and get one more payday. New home, Aaron Jones, RB, Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Jones has been one of the most productive backs in the league when healthy, but it's starting to look like his time in Minnesota wasn't meant to last. Enter the Denver Broncos, a team that desperately needs a veteran presence in the backfield. They have had a very impressive offensive line the last couple of years, one that should be good enough to sustain a top 10 rushing attack. But unfortunately, that just hasn't been the case because, they've not had the right ball carriers in the backfield. Even in a limited role, Jones was still effective last season, averaging 4.5 yards per carry and proving that he can be a weapon in the passing game. Denver isn't looking for a long-term answer. They just need a guy who can stabilize the position while they develop a young back from the 2025 draft class. Meanwhile, Minnesota can go back to the drawing board this season and do the same, bringing in a couple of more explosive options to support Darnold, or JJ McCarthy as an outlet. Not going anywhere, Kahlil Mack, edge, Los Angeles Chargers. Mack just put together a mighty impressive aging superstar season, one of the better ones that we've seen in recent memory, anchoring a Chargers defense that went from a liability to a legitimate force. And with Jim Harbaugh now running the show, LA is not about to let him walk. Sure, there are certainly cap concerns, there always are, but Harbaugh isn't here to rebuild, he's here to win. And keeping Mack in powder blue is a key part of that. There's obviously going to have to be a bit of a balancing act for general manager Joe Ortiz this offseason, but Mack seems like he wants to stay in LA and really bear the fruits of the culture that Jim Harbaugh is building out there. Expect him and the Chargers to meet in the middle and make a deal happen that keeps both sides happy and puts the team and Mack in a position to go chase that elusive Super Bowl that both have been after. But which NFL stars do you think are most likely to stay this offseason? Who is for sure going to find a new home? What do you think we got right here? What do you think we got wrong? Was there anyone that we may have missed? Let us know in the comments section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking that like button helps us out a ton. And we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.